Now we're going to look more specifically at some different conditions of a mortgage. When you go to take out a mortgage to buy a home, there's all kinds of different things that you have to decide about your mortgage. Do you want a fixed interest rate, a variable interest rate? How often are you going to make payments, and so on. So we're going to look at the impact of changing some of those conditions. You've got some more definitions here to be familiar with. In particular, you need to be familiar with these different payment schedules: semi-monthly, bi-weekly, accelerated bi-weekly, weekly, and accelerated weekly. A pre-approved mortgage is the maximum amount that can be borrowed from a lending institution to purchase a house. So sometimes before you start looking at homes, you go into the bank and they look at your income, and if you have a spouse, they look at their income and your other expenses and debts, and they'll tell you in advance how much you would be approved for in terms of a mortgage, and then you know sort of what your budget is while you're looking. When you make a semi-monthly payment, it means that half of the monthly payment is paid twice a month, usually on the 15th and the 30th of each month. Sometimes people want to do that instead of a monthly payment because if you get paid twice a month, it's nice to have sort of an equal amount coming off of each paycheck instead of one big lump sum in a month. Also, as we said before, paying more often means you will pay less interest in the end, because as soon as you pay down a little bit more principal, then you're not paying interest on that outstanding principal anymore. So increasing your payments frequency is a good thing. A bi-weekly payment is made every 2 weeks. So the amount of your payment is calculated as your monthly payment times 12 divided by 26. In other words, you would calculate how much you would be paying in a year and then divide it by 26, because you would be making 26 payments per year. So let's make a note here. Bi-weekly means 26 times per year. Okay, semi-monthly is 24 times per year, twice a month. An accelerated biweekly payment is calculated, the payment amount is calculated sort of the same way that you would calculate your payment for semi-monthly, as in you take half of your monthly payment, so same thing with accelerated biweekly. But in the case of accelerated biweekly, you pay that amount every 2 weeks. So instead of paying that amount 24 times a year, you're paying that amount 26 times a year, as you do with biweekly payments. And that's why it says here, in the end, the equivalent of one extra monthly payment is paid. A weekly payment is, as it sounds, you would pay every week. In order to find the amount of that payment, you would take your monthly amount, multiply it by 12 to get your annual amount owing, and divide it by 52. And your accelerated weekly payment is where you would take 1/4 of your monthly payment, but you would pay it every week. So again, by the end of the year, it would be like making an extra monthly payment. And that, of course, helps pay your mortgage down faster and saves you some interest. So there is no way you're going to remember all of that. We went through that pretty quickly. So you actually might want to have that first sheet of your printouts handy, because you might want to refer to that as we're going through some of these examples and the different payment schedules and what have you. So the first example says Danny and Melinda receive approval from their bank for a pre-approved mortgage of $167,000 for the townhouse they wish to purchase. The current annual interest rate for a 5-year fixed-term mortgage is 6.09%. Determine the monthly payment for a 20-year amortization period. All right, with your TVM solver then, you're going to enter N will be the number of months, so they're going to make monthly payments for 20 years, so that will be 240. Your interest rate is 6.09. The mortgage amount is $167,000. Future value will be 0 in the case of a mortgage. We are making monthly payments. Don't forget the compounding periods per year is always 2 for mortgages, and we'll assume the payment is made at the end of the month. Okay, so back up to your monthly payment. alpha, enter, and you should get a monthly mortgage payment of $1,197.80. Now it says calculate the total amount paid for the mortgage. So if we pay the bank $1,197.80 240 times, then in the end we will have paid them $287,472. Now it says determine the monthly payment for a 15-year amortization period. So instead of paying this off over 20 years, we want to shorten that down and pay it off over 15 years. So in this case, you're going to go back into your TVM solver and you're going to change your N value to 180, which is 15 times 12, so 15 years monthly. And then back down to payment, press alpha, enter, and their new payment will of course be higher, and I believe it is $1,410.52. So calculate the amount paid for the mortgage in Part C. So over 15 years then, they would be paying $1,410.52 180 times, which means they would be paying back $253,893.60 in total. So you can see that in the end they paid the bank much less. Now it says compare your answers to parts A and C. How much more is the monthly payment for the 15-year mortgage? Well, for the 15-year mortgage, we were paying $1,410.52. The 20-year mortgage was $1,197.80. So they're paying an extra $212.72 monthly. But then it says compare your answers to parts B and D, so the total amount paid in the end, paid to the bank. How much less would Danny and Melinda pay by choosing the 15-year amortization period? So if we subtract our two amounts from parts B and D, we had $287,472 with the 20-year amortization, and $253,893.60 with the 15-year amortization. So that means they've paid back $33,578.40 less. So by paying an extra $212 a month, they've saved themselves almost $34,000 in the end. So certainly worth considering if your budget will allow it. Now moving on to example 2. It says Michaela's monthly mortgage payment will be $1,250.87, and she was advised that she could pay down the mortgage faster by changing the frequency of the payments. Determine the payment amount for each payment frequency. So this is where you might want to have the first page of these handouts handy, because those are the ones that are going to help tell you how to convert a monthly payment into all of these other payment frequencies. So to convert to a semi-monthly payment, you simply take your monthly payment, which is $1,250.87, and divide it by 2. So your semi-monthly payment would be $625.44. To calculate a biweekly payment, you take your monthly payment, you multiply it by 12. That will tell you how much you're paying in a year. Then you divide that by 26 payment periods. Biweekly means every other week, so 26 times a year. And so your payment biweekly would be $577.32. For your accelerated biweekly payment, you calculate the payment amount the same way you do for semi-monthly. So it's half of your monthly payment amount. So $625.44. The difference being you would be paying that bi-weekly and not semi-monthly. So you would make an extra 2 payments every year. To calculate your weekly payment, you take the monthly payment, multiply it by 12 to get the amount paid in a year, and divide it by the number of weeks, which is 52. So your weekly payment would be $288.66. And your accelerated weekly payment is calculated by taking your monthly payment and dividing it by 4. So your accelerated weekly payment would be $312.72. Now the next chart says calculate the total amount you would pay in 1 year given each frequency. So we're going to need to take these payments that we found in the last chart and find out how much that would amount to in the end of a year. So semi-monthly, let's make some notes here again, means 24 times per year. So you're going to pay $625.44 24 times. So that comes out to $15,010.56. Bi-weekly payments are made 26 times per year. So if you take your bi-weekly payment, which was $577.32, and pay that 26 times, it comes out to almost exactly the same thing, $15,010.32. Accelerated bi-weekly payments are still made 26 times per year. It's still bi-weekly, but the amount you're paying each time is more. The amount is the same as your semi-monthly payment. So $625.44 times 26 means that in a year we would pay back $16,261.44. Weekly payments are made, sorry, that looks like an 8, 52 times per year. And so if you make your weekly payment, which was $288.66, 52 times, it comes out as $15,010.32 again. And for the accelerated weekly payments, you're still going to be paying 52 times per year. But the amount you're going to be paying is $312.72. So if we pay that 52 times, that comes out to $16,261.44. Okay, and we're just going to add to the bottom of this chart if we were paying monthly. How much we would be paying in the end. So $1,250.87 was our monthly payment, times 12 also comes out to $15,010.44. So it says which payment frequency from Part A pays down the mortgage the fastest. So you want to look at the ones that are the highest amount paid down. That would be your accelerated biweekly and accelerated weekly. So accelerating your payments does appear to pay off. So accelerated weekly and bi-weekly. Now notice the amounts are exactly the same, and in a lot of cases the way people decide their payment schedule is depending on how they get paid in their job. So if they get paid twice a month, semi-monthly, then they want their mortgage payment to match. If they get paid bi-weekly, then they often want that to match, and so on. So we have one more example to go through, but unfortunately I'm going to have to get you to go to part 2 of the video so I can fit that one in.